Guys, welcome back to my channel. It is your favorite sis. I have a video essay for you today, and the title of this particular video essay is The Precarious Case of Somhale, an examination of South Africa's most famous gay couple. So I know that I had said that I'm going to keep videos short. This is not one of them. As you know, essays are quite lengthy, so we'll see how far we're going to go with this video, how long it will be. So please indulge me. I did my research. I watched a couple of things, read up on things, and here I am bringing you all this information that I gathered. And it's during the week, I'm working, I'm on lunch, I ain't got time for no making up and all of that. So we gotta, win some, lose some. So let's get into it without wasting any time. I'm gonna give you a brief background of Somizi and Mahale's relationship. We all know Somizi as the child of legendary actors, his father Daba Mhlongo, mother Mary Twala, who recently passed on, but yeah, child of entertainment royalty, so to speak. Even someone called him the Blue Ivy of South Africa on one of the documentaries that I watched. So we all know he was a Sarafina, choreographer, dancer, celebrity, doing very well, and he introduced us to Umahale Mtaung. So we meet Umahale Mtaung they met in 2017 towards the end of the year, and by the end of the next year they were engaged, and then by the end of 2019 they had their wedding. All right. So that was a very short time between them meeting and having this wedding. You sometimes wish that these people should have prolonged their relationship. Excuse the noise, as you know, I live near a busy road. Moving right along. So what should have happened is they should have given themselves time to get to know each other. And then when we first started seeing Mahale in the next season of Living the Dream with Somizi, we saw this shy person, almost aloof, apprehensive, unsure. And for those of us who watched the show, we're like, okay, what's going on? What are you giving us? What do you want to give us? We don't understand. But as I go through this this video, we will unpack, we'll come back to this moment to say, oh, now this moment made sense when Mahale was first introduced to us. So there were two things. There are what I want to call personal red flags that I picked up from this particular relationship, especially as somebody in the queer community, and I love queer pop culture stuff. So I was very interested, very invested in the relationship. And I picked up two things, right? And these are the running themes of this particular essay that you are going to have to keep in your mind and track with me and bear with me, right? So there are two things. Mahale is 24 years younger than Somizi. Somizi is 24 years older than Mahale. Mahale was in his early 20s when he met Somizi, 22. Somizi was in his mid-40s, 44, 45, somewhere there, when he met Mahale. So now, with that, right, that was the first red flag. Aliyah lied to us. Age and nothing but a number is a big fat lie. Age is a factor. Age does matter, especially in an intimate kind of relationship. In a friendship, yeah, really doesn't matter. But In an intimate relationship where you have to be compatible with a partner and have things that you're, especially a partner that you're going to want to spend the rest of your life with and live with in the same house, you must be compatible. You must be able to have conversations. You must be able to relate and be relatable to each other. So age does matter. Also, R. Kelly, I think R. Kelly wrote that song, so we already know his agenda, so that just nullifies the song even more. So, R.I.P. Aaliyah, but no, that song was a lie, man. It was certainly a lie. And so, yeah, with the age thing, especially as black people, right? We are indoctrinated, or we are, the psychology of how we're raised is that a person who's older than us has authority, right? A person who's older than us, we call them Sisi, Puti, Malume. You don't call people by their name, right? And a person who's older than us has authority over us. So how we grew up is that if you are misbehaving in the street and an older person comes, they have a right to discipline you because they, in that moment, act as an elder on behalf of your parents and your grandparents or whoever is the disciplinarian in your life, right? That's how we know things. Even so much so that when we're at work, there's this whole debate online where people are like, when you get to work, do you call people Aussie? Do you call them Puti, Mama Spanbani, Baba Spanbani? No. People are like, no, don't do that. People are like, you know what? I'm going to do that. That's just how I was raised. That's just how I do things. Do you understand the psychology behind how we were raised and how we view an age gap? So, automatically, a person who's older than you will have that age authority because it is assumed that they are wiser and they know better and should do better, which is not always the case, you know. And even in situations where we were growing up and we went to grandmother's house, and the oldest cousins would be the ones that were responsible for everybody else, regardless of them being able or wanting to take care of the younger ones, or even having the qualities, the leadership qualities to be the leader in that moment. But just because they were older, they would be the ones that would take care of everyone, cook, clean, and make sure that everything is okay. When the adults come back, they are the ones to report as to what is happening, what is going on, and all of those things. Not this ring light trying to make an appearance in this video. I mean, child. Yes. And then another important factor that I just want to talk about is that representation matters. And I believe in representation. It matters because the wedding special was something that I truly loved and enjoyed. And so much so I even remember crying when they had the actual wedding. When we were watching the actual wedding, it was quite emotional. And for once, it wasn't centering a heterosexual couple, you know. And for a moment, whether you were lesbian, trans, gay, bisexual, whatever, as a member of the LGBTQI plus community, you could imagine and see yourself in them, you know, in Somizi and Mahale, and be like, you know, maybe one day that could be me. And that is why representation matters. A lot of little gay boys and girls and people and they and them saw themselves in that particular moment to say, I could have this too one day, you know, this could be me. And that was really, really, really interesting to see. And then after the wedding, 2020, the allegations of abuse started coming out, that there seems to be abuse in the relationship. Oh, another red flag that I forgot to mention is that financial control, right? Having the money in the relationship and being in having financial control over a relationship also is a red flag, right? It's because having authoritative power and having financial power are breeding grounds for abuse, and we all know that very well. We've heard the stories, we've read the stories, we know the stories, we know people that this type of thing has happened to. So they are grounds of inequality in a relationship where a person who has the financial who has the money is more in control, makes more of the decisions, and financially controls the other person in terms of what they can buy for them, what they don't buy for them, and all of those things like that. So those are perfect breeding grounds for an abusive relationship. So when we started hearing these abuse allegations, they weren't far-fetched for me because I walked in with those kind of red flags. Yeah, so now let's just get into the things that I watched. I watched Somhale on the record, right? And we're just going to unpack a little bit of the points, the interesting points that I picked up from each of these things. And so Aldrin St. Pierre, broadcast journalist, interviewed Somhale for this particular interview, right? And Somhale did not, he asked him, so you guys met and what happened? Somhale was like, I did not want the relationship to go public. I was a bit uncomfortable with that. I just wanted us to get to know each other better. And Somizi was like, no, let's post a picture of each other. Let's post a picture together, so on and so forth. And that happened. And the next thing, he was on the next season and things were moving pretty fast, right? And he goes on to say that there was a promise that was broken, and this promise or agreement that happened off camera was that the engagement wasn't going to happen as soon as it did, or the way that it did, or as soon as it did. And so he can pretty much say that this engagement was done for TV. This is Somhale saying this, all right? And then Aldrin is like, but there were so many things happening here, so many red flags. Why did you agree to all of this? Why did you agree to the engagement happening on TV? Why did you agree to go public? And were you naive is the exact question that Aldrin asked Somhale, and he responds by saying, no, I was in love. And I was like, okay, that's fair. That's fair enough. That's fair enough. Makes sense. Makes sense to me, you know? So, I understand. So, I was like, okay, cool, that makes sense. And he also references to say, Somizi was older than me, so I trusted that he was doing the right thing. You know, he was doing the right thing and he knew what he was doing, and he was constantly telling me that it's okay, we're going to be okay, don't worry, I won't bring you any harm. So I was trusting and I was in love. And then we get introduced to his family, and we get to see a bit of his family on this documentary, and how he was raised and how he grew up and how they're a tight-knit, close family. Very interesting to see. He also goes on to talk about them, to say how proud he is of them, and that his dad is getting his master's degree and stuff like that. And the interesting thing is that one of the first things his mother says is that she prays for him every day that he goes and finishes his degree. And I remembered that when they first met and we first started knowing who Somhale is, on his Instagram bio it was saying economist students at Wits. I remember that for some strange reason. And when his mother said that, I was like, oh yeah, kind of manakena school Somhale. So yeah, it makes sense. So she wants him to go back and finish his degree, and that was an interesting point for me, and we'll touch on that a bit later as well. So Alden asked, and like, how did you guys meet? Is it the whole book thing where he signed your book? And Somhale was like, yes. My cousin bought me the book and said that there would be a signing, the book signing in Joburg, and he's from Bloem, and she's from Bloem. The cousin came over and we went to the signing. We were standing in the queue. So Mizi kept pointing at me with his pen, and by the time I was on and off my phone, and I stepped out of the line, I was on my phone, and I came back, my cousin was at the front and he was refusing to sign the book until I came back and I was there. And when I was there, he signed the book. We took pictures. I think exchanged Instagram handles because sometime later, Somizi DM'd him those pictures that they took to say this is how we're going to look on our wedding day. Mahale says I didn't pay attention to that. I was like, I don't really believe him, and this is Somizi, for goodness sakes. Some time after that, so there wasn't an exchange of numbers, which is something maybe we thought happened with the exchange numbers and started talking on WhatsApp or whatever, or calling each other, then, the relationship started over the phone type of thing. But no, there was an exchange of numbers. Sometime later, he says that they went on a date, but this date was overcrowded with like 6 of Somizi's friends, and they didn't really get to talk or get to know each other better. So he doesn't even it's like I wrote that one off. And then the next time we were together, we went to Swaziland on a trip to Swaziland, and that's when I got to know him. That's when I got to, and I became friends with him. And and the rest is history. And I was like, okay, I like this person. I could be in a relationship with this person. And as you know, the rest is history. So on the 5th season of, no, I'm lying, that season of Living the Dream with Somizi, when they were in Amsterdam and went to Paris, Somizi suggested something about a threesome with Orlando. I don't know if you guys would remember that scene where they met a person called Orlando. Somizi had been talking to this person for a while now, and now because he and Mahale engaged, he couldn't really pursue a relationship with Orlando. And so he suggested, what do you think about us having a threesome? Mahale was uncomfortable with that and said, you know what, I'm gonna head out, and went back to bed. And they came back the next morning, Somizi came back the next morning. And so, that was quite interesting. And the reason I'm bringing that up, these sexual suggestions come up a lot in his story, in Mahale's story, to say he would suggest this, he would suggest threesomes, he would suggest bringing other people into the relationship and all of that. So it started way back in the beginning. Also, another thing is that Mahale admitted to cheating within 3 months of dating and regretted that and regretted hurting Somizi like that. So that's what happened. He also highlights that Somizi bamboozled him to resign for the Paris trip, emailed his boss to let him go, eventually resigned. And this is what hurt Mahale in terms of now wanting to work, and Somizi standing in the way of that, to say, no, you're not going to work. I didn't want to marry anybody in the industry. Basically, Somizi, in Mahale's words, wanted a house husband, and Mahale was not ready to be that, or did not want to be that. And that's where a majority of the attention started coming from, that Somizi wanted this and Mahale didn't want to be that. And especially when it came to influencing and acting and whatever, Somizi was like, you're not doing that on my watch, or I don't want you to do that. And Mahale was like, but I'm unemployed and I want to work and I want to do my own thing. And he would even say, Mahale says that Somizi would constantly remind him that, remember, you bring nothing but your beautiful face to the table. And I was like, what? How do you talk to somebody you love like that? Also, there's that leaked audio between Mahale and Legends Manele, who was at the time the executive producer of Living the Dream with Somizi. So Aldrin asked him, so do you know if that thing was recorded? And he says, yes, I know it was being recorded. And he said that he's recording it so that he can go back to listen to it and take out the valid points and take out the valid things that he needed to go tell Channel why I wasn't coming back on season 5 of Living the Dream is so amazing. And I was having a conversation with him as a brother and in confidence, and as somebody that I trusted. I completely get that, because I've listened to that voice recording, and Mahale sounds like somebody that is having a conversation with a friend, and even now I know you're gonna go back to channel, right, and tell them and give them a synopsis of this story that I'm telling you as a friend of very intimate details. When you're gonna get there and say, no, there are allegations of abuse even in here. Somhale is willing to testify if they go to court or whatever about the allegations of abuse, but you're not gonna say verbatim what it is because it's still fresh, it's still new, and that's my job to do that, right? So I completely understood that, and he was pouring his out to what he called a brother, a brother and friend in confidence. So I completely got that. He knew that the conversation was being recorded. And that thing, Somizi not wanting Somhale to work even affected Somizi and Titimba's relationship, because Somizi sent Titimba to go speak to the Fergusons to not hire Somhale. Somhale confronted Titi. Yaiva mnaz. Somhale confronted Titi. Somizi confronted Titi. And it was just a mess of why did you not stand up for me and lie on my behalf? Wabashia wabayenzi mess umdase wabashia banchalo waphuma kubo, and they fight it. And so Somhale denies that he wanted 50% of everything. He even has his court papers. Even in the recording, he says, I want my clothes, I want half of the money for the wedding special, and I want Somizi to replace the car that he damaged the one way we were fighting, and he drove me off the road. That's all I want. And he says that there's a clip on Living the Dream where Somizi was packing boxes. Somhale said, Somhale said, I didn't even get one of them boxes. And the reason I'm laughing is because, ma'am, so much trauma, so much work. How about Somizi na actor in that scene, na performela, and the Oscar goes to the boxes that never arrived. I mean, so now it's like, what were you even packing in these boxes if Somhale never received any? Somhale was like, you see those boxes you see on TV? I didn't even get one of them. Not even one, homie. And I was like, that is the funniest thing I've ever seen. So, yeah, he even shows the court papers, and on this interview, they show the Somhale's court papers, and they show Somizi's reply. And Somizi's reply, Somizi's the one saying, and we will have to share everything 50%. So, and it's like, what's going on here, right? We're gonna get into that. All right, Sharp, I'm just giving you highlights, right, of these things and you'll see how they marry each other, right? Okay, Somhale, and then I watched Somhale and Somizi End of the Road, the documentary on Showmax, and there was a whole host of different people, the late Lumka Johnson, Mable, Thokozani Ndaba, a whole host of people, and there was somebody called Tiamo as well, and she's somebody that stood out for me on that thing because she was so spicy. Gabby was on it. Tiamo was so spicy. She says, so Somhale was not in it for the money. Oh, really? Did you see what the Idol's check is worth? I was like, okay, Tiamo. So the people on that documentary had polarizing views. Some people were on Somizi's side, some people were on Somhale's side, and I think Tiamo was on Somizi's side. Didn't explicitly say I'm Somizi's friend or anything like that, but it seemed like she really was on Somizi's side. And there was also Somhale's best friend, Peace, and he was also saying, you know what, my friend got into this relationship. I asked him, are you happy? Do you want to get into this? He was happy, and there was nothing I could say or do about it. But let him do his thing. However, now in the aftermath, I will fight for my friend. I will defend my friend. And I'm like, yeah, that's what friends do. And he said something that's very interesting that I agree with. And he said that Somhale gets bullied a lot on social media, and so Mizi allowed that for that to happen because he could have stopped it to say, guys, don't bully him. And he could have stopped it, and he didn't. And he actually is the one that opened the door wide open for that bullying. And I absolutely have to agree with a piece on that one. I absolutely have to agree. Now, living the dream with Somhale. Now, on the show Living the Dream, I did not watch it. And the reason why I did not watch it, I watched the snippets, and I would watch snippets of it. The reason why I did not watch it is because on this particular season, Somhale was coming off as defensive, right? He was defending himself and defending his honor, and the people in his life were also defending him, defending his honor. And it came off as being very disparaging towards Somhale, vilifying towards Somhale. And in a relationship, I personally believe nobody walks away as the loser and the victor. There's no victor, there's no loser. We all walk away with the same amount of, we are either winners or losers, Nobody wins, nobody loses. You just walk away with whatever scars you walk away with. You know what I'm saying? You can't, especially if we can sit out here and try and judge the relationship, say, this person was wrong, that person was wrong. But for the both of you, obviously you are going to say the other party was wrong, and they're going to say you were wrong. But you really cannot vilify the other party, because what it then does is it takes away from you taking accountability and responsibility for your part in the whole mess. Even so much so, there's a scene where Bahumi and her mother are sitting and having lunch talking about Somhale. And by the way, Somhale says we had signed documents that we would not speak about each other on public platforms. I'm so surprised that I was 99% part of the season, even though I was not there. And so Bahumi and her mother are sitting there having a conversation. Oh, no, he came in as a fan celebrity type of thing, where he was a fan meeting a celebrity. And I'm like, private relationship, private conversation, there's really no need for them to involve themselves. Because especially family, because little fan celebrity, pick up a little top. I know how you think, what you think of me. Because these things do happen, people do fixate things and they get back together. So family and friends, I'd be like, don't get overly, especially in public, don't get overly involved. Keep your conversations private, because at the end of the day, di bari baluna. So it's on so much. Even there was Vusinova saying, oh, I didn't even like Somhale. Somhale was like, interesting, because I hardly ever interacted with this person, so I'd like to find out how you came to that conclusion that you don't like me when you've never even spent time with me. In fact, you are the one that would call me when we would fight and say, please fix things with my friend. So today you don't like me? And I was sitting there, I'm like, ma'am, Vusi, Nova, I'm gonna need you to relax that perm. I'm honestly gonna need you to relax that perm. I couldn't eat, babes. I couldn't eat. The Living the Dream with Somhale was so ill-advised. It was so ill done that it's so cringe. Even the clips you see are so cringe to watch. And uthi ufuna 50% cabanga uyahlanya ile mamkhize. And now we're sitting here, I'm like, but he didn't want 50%. So where did you get that? Why are you making up stories, about your former partner? And also, there's a scene where Somizi is like, you come into a relationship, you bring nothing to the table, and yet you want to walk away with everything. I'm sitting there on some, what? When you were on your knee in Paris, what was he bringing to that table in Paris? What was he bringing to that bridge that made you go down on one knee? Like, another thing that I'm going to implore all of us is that I know breaking up can be rough. I know people change. I know it can be tough to be nice, right, to the person about that person. But I always advocate for, even when we fight, can we fight in love? Can I not say anything where when I heal tomorrow from the anger, because I'm not going to be angry forever. When you heal from the anger, can you not regret the things that you said about that person? Out of anger or out of whatever you were saying. So that for me was like, excuse me? How do you talk about this about somebody that you were madly in love with? How? How does it make sense? And the show also has a very poor job of Somizi taking accountability, because there's a scene where Rosha Cooper asks him, did you hit him? And then he says, okay, no, I see that, but what about the root? Why? What would have made me hit him? Excuse me? Wait. What? That is classic abuse. That is a classic. Umshayile. Yeah, why ngimshayile? No! Umshayil is all we want to know. Is that umshayil, and that ain't your kid, and even your kids. Stop hitting your kids. Where? I'm like, that was so brave to put that scene in there. Who thought that was a great scene? Like, where? What? Where? We is what? In my high-pitched voice. I was like, I am baffled, sweetie. In conclusion, my final thoughts on this is that the breakup, Somizi allowed Somhale to be bullied and participated in the bullying. That is one of my final thoughts on this. And then another thought is that Hale knew what he was walking into. I completely believe him with the abuse, the intimate partner abuse, not even allegations, his recount of the abuse he experienced. I believe him. I totally and utterly believe him. And but he knew what he was walking into. He just didn't know that it would get like this, that it would get this messy. He didn't know Somizi was abusive. It would be abusive. He did not know that. But he knew what he was. He's not dumb. He's not stupid. He knew what he was getting into in terms of, I'm getting into a relationship with somebody who's famous, or, it will introduce me to it will definitely be a lifestyle upgrade from what I know and I'm used to. It's gonna elevate me a little bit. I'll be exposed. It's gonna expose me. It's gonna connect me to new people, to the right people, whatever. He might not have had a full-on hedged plan about, okay, so how am I going to use my new sexually transmitted fame? That's me being spicy. how am I going to use this new fame through osmosis of being in a relationship with this person? How am I going to use it? At the time, might have not had a fully fledged plan. And I believe Mahalo when he says I was in love with Somizi. I believe that. And over and above that, I didn't expect, right? I did not expect to walk away from this being endeared to Mahale. I did not expect that because I was just doing my research. And not that I didn't like him or whatever. I was indifferent to him in the past. I'm like, okay, I'm an interesting person, whatever. But after this whole research that I did, this whole thing, I didn't expect to be endeared because he seems like a genuinely nice person. He seems like a genuinely good-spirited person, and I didn't expect to walk away endeared to him. And he had nothing, and I like that. He had nothing bad throughout he's never tweeted one bad thing about Somizi. He's never said one bad thing about Somizi, and I appreciate and I like that kind of character in people. I really appreciate that. I don't like people who fight dirty. I don't like that. I don't appreciate that. There was a tweet sometime after they said that they're breaking up that somebody was like, oh, so you're single now, I want to date you. And Somizi was like, I need 6 months bank statement and proof of res. I can no longer deal with people that bring nothing to the table. How do you say that? How do you even say that about somebody that you were married to? Somebody you were planning to live the rest of your life with? That was not cool. And it was just at the beginning when all of this was fresh. That was not cool at all. Oh, another thing is Mahale should go back to school. I feel that he was derailed. I feel that, he was derailed. And the relationship derailed him from completing his school. It took him a whirlwind, and he couldn't concentrate on his scholastic affairs. I agree with his mother. I think he should go back. He should consider going back to school and completing his degree. I am a firm believer in finishing what you started, especially academics wise. You're not dumb. You're not stupid. So go do that. I have a thought. I know that I may have seen that I was coming on Somizi, but I was just stating what I was seeing, and comparing facts. But I have some consideration for him. And the one thing, firstly, Somizi was not cancelled, right? So Somizi was not cancelled. There was an uproar about cancelling him. His employers, partners, collaborators, whatever, they came out and they were like, oh, we're in talks with him. This is a private matter. They will deal with it privately. He's gonna come back to work, and he's gone back to work, still working, making his money. He's alright. He's cool. He's doing well. He's gonna do well, right? He didn't get cancelled. However, the one thing that my consideration for him is being the older person and coming out of this type of relationship, and maybe even him disparaging and the anger and whatever is hurt, and that's how he channels his hurt, right? He was really hurt because he's one of the things that his people say on his show was that he really liked this person. He really was enamored and in love with Mahale, and he made him happy. They made each other happy. Yada 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 yada. All good and well. But however, I also feel that my thoughts or feelings for him is that because he's the older person, and I feel like as you get older, you get less courageous, less energetic to want to dive into relationships, to want to fall in love madlessly and hopelessly and hope for the best, right? So Mizi might have walked away jaded from this whole situation, right? He might have walked away jaded and doesn't want to see Mfana for the next, I don't know, for the while. So that might be the one thing where he's like, oh, don't tell me about Mcholo, because Somhale has the privilege of youth, where he can go back and fall in love again and throw himself headfirst into the next relationship, and he can reinvent himself. He's got the privilege or the opportunity of youth, and he can do that for himself. So yeah, that's the thing, the one thing I had to say about Usomizi. And in conclusion, and like the last thing that I'm going to say is that I am a great supporter of the underdog. I greatly support the underdog because I know what it's like for people or to be underestimated. I know what it's like to be underestimated. I know what it's like to know that people look at you with and in this situation, Somhale is the underdog because he came through fame through being in a relationship with Somizi, and it will be interesting to see how he reinvents himself in the space. Another person would have completely gone private and left social media to pursue a quiet private life because enough of this shit. Have you seen the vitriol that Somhale has to go through on social media? He will post, it's currently cloudy. He will say, oh, finally the rain is coming, it's so cloudy. Yeah, I need to, you are clouded by Somizi's money. Oh, because the vitriol he receives, and I admire how he hasn't cowered and collapsed into himself. That just also goes to show that he has a great support system. People, and I hope he does have a support system because he's still here, he's still doing his thing and living his life, regardless of what people are saying on social media. So it will be interesting to see what he does with himself, how he reinvents himself and repositions himself, and how he will come out of this once we forget, because we're going to forget. And it blows over. And it will be interesting to see how he is going to come out of this, that will be interesting to watch. Anyway, if you have any thoughts on this particular topic, if you agree with me. So, yeah, the before, I keep coming up with things. The red flags that I spoke about, for me, those things played a huge factor in the falling apart of this particular relationship because they laid a ground for the abuse to happen. They were fertile ground for the abuse to happen in this particular relationship. And with all of that said and whatever, I was happy. I was happy to see that the it couple at one point was a gay, queer LGBT couple. I was happy to see that. And because this couple did not exist in a world that is foreign, in a world outside of this particular world we live in, where people break up, where people get divorced, where relationships don't work, them not working is not even a dent in how I viewed the historic representation. It doesn't dent it for me. They will always have that historic value of being one of our country's most well-known queer couples, most accepted, well, not accept, well, most loved, appreciated and fawned over, so much interest over them as a queer couple. That history cannot be taken away. That history cannot be erased from them, regardless of their relationship not working. Now they personally need to deal with the aftermath of the relationship not working and who's getting what and who's not getting what. That's their thing to deal with, and that's it. And I told me kabona ibile I kabona. It's gonna happen with the next gay couple. Well, not the next. It's gonna happen with another gay couple. It's gonna happen with a straight couple. It's gonna keep on keeping on. Thank you for watching. Thank you for indulging me. Comment below with your thoughts when you